That was the other thing. Anytime I'm in the service of, that's the business that's successful. Anytime I think it's the service of me, I'm dead meat.
Oh, that could be a clip, Mel. Right there.
yes.
That could be our clip.
And then next thing you know, it's Penelope Cruz. Next thing you know, it's Ashton Kutcher. Next thing you know, it's Jay-Z. Next thing you know, it's Kanye West. Like, this is who's coming to your opening night. That's when you knew you arrived. And again, that's the first night.
Well, welcome to Business Untitled. We're back. If you haven't subscribed on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, TikTok, bring it all on. Today, we're really excited to announce a guest who's been a friend of mine for a long time, Eugene Remm of Catch and Rumble fame. Eugene is an amazing entrepreneur and one of the guys that's inspired me personally in my business career the most. We've known each other for about 20 years, and he's a guy I take amazing lessons from in terms of managing people and businesses and insights on brands. So super excited to have Eugene Remm here today and tell us his story. Welcome, Eugene.
Great to be here, David. Thank you. Those would be everything how I would have described you. So thank you for saying those nice things about me. But I actually wouldn't be in this position in my career without you. So I just want to shout you out on that and say thank you very much.
I'm loving this mutual admiration society early on.
And
we got Mel here dressed like the snowman.
Felt like wearing white.
You look good.
Mel, I think you look fantastic.
I hope you don't sweat.
I'm a little hot. I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of cool at first, but
It won't because you're nervous. It's just because you're
really
physically
bad.
hot.
I mean, you're here. Why would I not be nervous?
No, you look amazing. You rested.
How did you guys meet?
It's a great story.
Let me take this off.
Yeah, take it off.
Oh, he's got pink underneath. I like that.
Man,
I
wish I could do what you do, young
You
man.
can.
No.
He's still a snow bunny.
So Dave and I had met. I was working for a gentleman named Steve Hansen, who was a big New York restaurateur, and I was running a lounge called Level V. I was 26 years old, and I was the manager, the promoter, the doorman, everything. And it was in this up-and-coming neighborhood called the Meatpacking District, just when it was just popping. And Dave had come in, and wherever Dave goes, he makes an impact. And we started connecting. But the truth is that Dave was developing the W Hoboken at the time. And this is 2004. And he originally, I think, had thought it would open in 2006, early 2007. And before that, I had worked for Randy and Scott Gerber, who owned all the W bars. And they used to be the go-to for the people who would get a deal in a W hotel. And the only thing Dave was certain of was that he wanted a different perspective for his new hotel. And I was 26 at the time. And this is before Tenjune, which was Mark and my first popular club. He believed in me enough to want me to do that deal. That deal ended up being delayed a little bit. So Tenjune opened first, so it looked like he was following the trend of the hot new club. But actually, he saw it before there was anything to see. So from that point on, that's how Dave and I met.
Tenjune was kind of hot.
Tenjune was hot.
Beyond hot.
Well,
How long did that run for?
Well, it ran for a while. So I think we opened in September of 2006. And at the time, I was 28 years old. I didn't really know anything about finance or banking, or I just thought that, okay, you open, people buy buildings, people sell buildings, people do trades, and then they spend $50,000 at a nightclub. And I just thought that was just kind of the normal Tuesday world. I didn't realize that we were in an economic boom of all booms in 2006 and 2007. So our timing was pretty fantastic as we opened in the, it couldn't be better timing. The neighborhood was right. The space was right. We were at that age, Mark and I were at that age where we were like, we were our customer. We weren't thinking about trying to run it as a business. I was living in a studio. And it was $2,000 a month, and there was a one bedroom that came open in the building, and it was 3 Gs a month. And it was right before Tenjune was going to open. I was like, I think it's going to be okay. I think I could step up to the one bedroom. That was really my goal of Tenjune originally, was just like, can I get the one bedroom and not the studio?
So to go from club promoter, right, to now owning your own club and it being like the hottest club in the city. What was that moment you felt like, wow, this is fucking crazy, where you just stood on the stairs and opened your hands?
Were you there next to me when I did that? Because I did
No,
that.
but wait, did you?
Literally probably did that. It's interesting because I never was in the traditional promotions. I always started from the ops side of it. So I had worked for a celebrity PR firm in the mailroom out of college. So that was my first learning of this business. And then I would do the door for free because I wanted to meet who was coming into these really great parties. I'd never seen this before. And then I was given the opportunity at the Gerber Group working for them. And I was in the corporate sales department, believe it or not. So I was running the 6 to 9. Oh, you have 50 people, you need a space to do a corporate dinner. So that was my second introduction into the business. But when I was there on the weekends, I would just ask the owners if I could bring 50 people to one of their bars. Now, at the time, they weren't, I wouldn't call them the hottest clubs in New York. They were good bars that people enjoyed going to, but I felt that people weren't treating people well. So I was able to invite those 50 people. Instead of them spending $10,000, they spent $1,000, but I built a great base. So that's how I always thought about it. So by the time Tenjune opened, part of me on one side was like, I was so stressed every day that I couldn't actually stop to really enjoy it. And then there were just certain moments at 3 a.m. when things had calmed down that I would just stand by the DJ booth and just watch this room kind of vibrate and people just moving. And that was super special. And that was really in the beginning. I don't feel that much like that anymore because I'm always worried about the next thing. But I think I was 28 when that opened. And in my wildest imagination did I think I'd ever, one, own a club, B, run something like this. It wasn't in my cards. So when you're standing there, it was surreal. Unfortunately, though, I did not smell the roses enough. I was more like, why is that busboy not cleaning that table? Why is this not happening? I couldn't, for better or worse, I couldn't appreciate it to the level that I should have.
So roll it back a tiny bit, right?
Yeah.
Because, in some ways, you're born not a man of huge wealth.
For sure.
So talk a little about where you're born.
I was a man of the opposite of huge wealth. So I am.
So the opposite of Dave.
I don't know what Dave was born with, but I know what Dave earned. But I will say I was born in Russia. My mother, my father, and I immigrated here when I was 2.5 years old. We grew up in Far Rockaway, Queens, and then we went to Kings Highway, Brooklyn. And then I moved from Teaneck, New Jersey, to New Milford, New Jersey, to Oradell, New Jersey, just basically as my father could get a better job. The only thing that mattered to my parents was that I went to a decent school in a decent town. So whatever money we had was always saved to get to a nicer apartment or to a better house so that I can get a better schooling. So
you had siblings or no?
No, only child. So
a lot of pressure.
No pressure, actually. Zero pressure. Just be decent. My mother's biggest concern was that I wasn't going to be able to afford to pay for myself, right? I was terrible in school. I was a C-D student, and my parents, not their fault, they just assumed that if you didn't get good grades, you couldn't be successful in life. So they put a ton of pressure.
That's a normal assumption, though.
I don't think so. I don't think in today's world it is.
I don't think it's a correct assumption. I don't think it's a correct assumption, but I think it's a normal assumption.
I'm not saying they thought anything wrong with it, but they were definitely worried. and when after high school, I went to college. I went to Hofstra University. I studied in nothing. I majored in nothing. I just literally, I hung out and barely graduated. But what I did do is I worked at the college bar. And I was working as a waiter, and I think I was making $85 a shift, and the dude was making me shave every day before the shift.
Wait, what? Why?
He wanted it was part of the rules of being a server at the time. You needed a fresh shave, and it was really irritating my face. And I was like, there has to be a better way to make $85 than working at Cafe Spasso on Old Country Road, serving $14 rigatoni and penne alla vodka. So I'd convinced my best friend, who was the lead bartender, to give me a job as a barback And that's when it kind of all changed. And that bar was incredibly successful. And it really was my first taste at like watching this business. And I went from making $85 to $250, $300, $350, $100 a night. But more importantly, I was in a pair of like Abercrombie shorts and a t-shirt. I was meeting lots of pretty people and enjoying myself. And it was like, it wasn't work. So for the first time ever, I was making money doing something that didn't feel like torture.
Yeah.
And then, wait, understand, then when you got out of college, you went and worked for that PR firm.
Yes.
And
So
you had another moment there, right, of like you wanted to take a leap. Or
I've had moments the whole way through, but in college, I had one kid who worked at A&E and the History Channel. I said, what do you do? He said, I sell commercials to different advertisers. Like, can I do that? He said, sure. So it was a way to get me from Long Island to Manhattan, right? It was a job. I lasted about 6 months and I hated it. And I asked somebody, you know, what do you think I'd be good at? They'd be like, you'd be great at PR. I said, what's PR? I literally didn't know. And he said, well, you could talk a lot and you don't need to know a lot. And I said, that's my game right there. So, you know, this is 2000. So there was this thing called a fax machine. It was very popular. And I would just fax my resume to all these different PR firms. And what PR firm was really going to, you know, I didn't have any of the skill sets. I didn't know there's this term called socialite that just had started. And someone was like, oh, you need to be a socialite to work at one of these places, which basically
the Russian kid from Hofstra is your
no,
typical socialite.
I'm like the anti-socialite. And then there were people whose father had created something famous that were working at that company, or someone, you know, something or someone or somewhere that they were someone. And they gave me a job in the mailroom. And it was $22,000 a year, but I still had my bartending money because I was still working there on Saturday. And with my bartending money, I bought 4 homes in Hempstead, Long Island, that was paying me a rent roll. And
What age were you?
when I bought the houses, I was 20.
What the fuck?
Well, it's simple. It was real simple, right? There's a kid who dropped out of college, and he rolled up in a Lexus one day. And I said, what do you do? He said, mortgages. I said, what's a mortgage? For real. I didn't know what a mortgage was. And he said, well, if there's a house you like, I can give you 110% financing on the house. I'll pay you to buy the house. This is like before. Again, I didn't know.
2007.
It's the mortgage boom.
Yeah.
It was the boom.
No, you missed your chance.
Yeah, I didn't know. So again, I don't know these are booms because I've never seen the bust. So I just say, okay. And we were renting a house with 6 of my buddies in college. And so we found another house. And basically whatever we had to put down, we got all that money back plus to renovate the places. And now we're just cash rolling on these rentals. Never mind that I think that these houses would appreciate in value. And then when I was 24, we were able to sell them, 2 of them, for double what we bought them for in 1999 or 2000. So I used that money basically. So basically the point was that I took a job where I thought I could have a career as opposed to how much money I can make in the short term. I was at Harrison and Schriftman, which was the PR firm, for about 9 months. Very humble work, like, you know, like go pick up these magazines, go move these boxes, go cut this clip, like, and put it on a piece of paper and fax it over to Cartier and fax it over to Vogue. And I didn't know what those magazines were or what those brands were at the time. Jimmy Choo, I didn't know what a Jimmy Choo was, and but I learned. And from there, I had an opportunity to meet Scott Gerber, and they offered me a position at the W Hotel Group in that events position. And from that point, I met Steve Hansen, and Steve Hansen said, do you want to work for Randy and Scott Gerber or be Randy and Scott Gerber? And I said, that's a good pitch. And
did they throw the Sidney Crawford piece in there as well?
No, because I don't think there's any version of me being 6 feet tall and a supermodel. But the other guy's a higher probability of. And so I did that for 2 years. And then the gentleman who owned SDK, which was a restaurant.
Wait, is SDK still around?
It is. It's actually a publicly traded company.
Oh, wow. How many locations they have now?
I'm not sure.
I think I had $100 grand on it.
No way.
Yeah, I think.
What if it's like $1 billion?
No, it ain't. It ain't.
It's the opposite. But
I got a few free steaks.
But they had a nightclub right below it, and I think the most important part there was just understanding. I said no to a lot of things along the way, and picking those next spots and when to get the job and take the job versus not taking the job. I was offered a job in Vegas, was considering moving there. I was offered a job in Miami, just debating moving there, and then the Tenjune spot came, and that was history.
So how did you become? So you start off scrappy kid from Queens, really, Hofstra, that road, and 15 years later, you've got one of the great Rolodexes, like the Celebrity Whisperer, all the athletes and celebs that come to your clubs that trust you, that you get them in and you're nice to them, and you're not an ass kiss, but on the same hand, you service them well. Otherwise, they wouldn't all come. And that magic dust, is that part of the brand? Was that conscious, or did it just happen?
It was conscious, and I knew it was important. And I knew it was important when I stood outside a nightclub in Manhattan for 30 minutes in the freezing cold when I first moved here, and I saw someone zoom by me with two beautiful women on their arms and celebrity XYZ and walk right in. And I said, so that's the hack, right? That was the basic hack. And then when you go into that nightclub and then you see them in a VIP section and you're standing there in general population being like moved around trying to like get a drink at the bar, like you become a student of the game, right? Just like your business or your business or your business. So in my world, I became a student of that business. And I think there's like 100 versions of people who've done this, right? They've come in, they've added value, they created these relationships. Some of them are really loud. Some of them are really aggressive. For me, I didn't take that approach because it wasn't authentically who I am. I was more of the behind the scenes. I'm in the service business to service you. I don't actually enjoy being service, and I don't enjoy being the guy with the attention. I prefer to be the guy that takes care of the people, and I think the people around me at that time authentically believed that. But I was also their peer, right? Like I had a lot in common with a 28-year-old athlete. I had a little bit of money. I was a single guy, and I wanted to go out and I wanted to have fun, and I wanted to further my career. So at 28, I had a lot in common with a lot of guys. Now at 45, I don't have too much in common with the next generation of 25-year-old athletes. So I think those relationships at that time, those 15 years of Rolodex, was as I developed as a person. Those people developed with me. If you are incredibly successful in business, I'm attracted to that. So I want to get to know that. If I become better at my skill, we're going to continue to work with each other. And I think that's the relationships that I've been able to have.
And talk about how it was, the importance of having a partner at that time, right? Because you and Mark really, kind of ham and egg to like a lot of that different
Salt
work,
and pepper,
right?
ham and egg.
Salt and pepper, ham and egg. Yeah, so I think it's interesting to talk because a lot of people think about how to integrate a partner into this
Tall
business.
and short was definitely a part of it. So, look,
You know what's crazy? I've never met Mark.
Yep,
He's been in LA for like 5 years.
For 6
He's very
years.
tall.
tall, handsome man. I think that the nightlife business or any business is very lonely. And if you don't have someone that you can go to war with every single day, it can get really lonely. And I think Mark and I, he's 1 year older than me. We're both born on the 10th of June, which is why the place was called Tenjune.
Oh, wow.
And I think we're two nice guys with nice parents, and we ultimately had the same goals of we wanted to be successful. And I think if you have an alignment with your partner where it's like do or die, I think that's super important. So he wanted to pay his rent. I wanted to pay my rent. He didn't want to go work back at a corporate job. I didn't want to work back at a corporate job. So we had our backs against the wall. So we were really motivated. And Mark is incredibly great at a lot of things that are not my joy of what to do. And I definitely do a lot of things that Mark doesn't like to enjoy. And I think that collaborative effort as a partnership was everything. And if everyone's against you, in the bare minimum, there's one guy who's not on your payroll who's fighting for you, I guess, similar to a brother, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's you versus the world.
Yeah, that's cool. And I used to see them sometimes have disagreements, but I was always amazed at how Mark and Eugene could have these disagreements. They would go at it from an idea perspective, And then boom, that beef was quashed, and they're like, okay, let's go do this,
Yeah.
you know? And it was amazing to me. They never held it more than walking out of that room, you know? And they would get feisty in there together
Yeah, no,
sometimes.
it would get feisty.
Yeah.
I think, Mark's kind of like a Great Dane. He's very chill and calm, and, unless you really get in him, he stays pretty chill. And me, I can get loud and animated, but like, I think like it's also the way you grow up. Like I grew up, if you like someone, you over communicate with them. If I'm really angry at you, I just don't talk to you. Like, so I think like there's different versions of that. And I think Mark and my dynamic worked really, really well because the things that he was incredibly passionate about, I could be somewhat passive about. And the things that I'm really passionate about, he can be passive. And the things in the middle, that's a good, I think it's like a shot of espresso. Like you have that good fight and then, and then but it was always, we always knew we had each other's back, and that was the key. And I think that was the important part. So anyone out there, I think just...
What was like a crazy night? 2 questions. What was a crazy night at Tenjune?
Yes.
One that you will never forget. And what is the most money you ever saw someone spend at Tenjune that you was like, what the fuck was that?
Well, there's probably 2 nights. The opening night. So the opening night was
Was
June...
it Mike Novogratz?
Was that Mike Novogratz was definitely at the opening night, and so was David Barry. The opening night was June Ambrose's book launch, Effortless Style, in 2006, September 9th or 8th, and Puffy hosted it, and we didn't know what to expect. We didn't know June personally. Every time I see June, I said, "You are the good luck charm of my professional career, and I'm very grateful to you." And she says, "Thank you." And then next thing you know, it's Penelope Cruz. Next thing you know, it's Ashton Kutcher. Next thing you know, it's Jay-Z. Next thing you know, it's Kanye West. Like, this is who's coming to your opening night of your thing. And you're just sitting around hanging out with your friends that, you would get a bagel with. And Jay-Z, Penelope Cruz, Ashton Kutcher, all these different people. So, like, that's when you knew you arrived. And, again, that's the first night.
Mike's dream. Can you imagine? He's literally going to dream this tonight.
Well,
He might open Tenjune tomorrow.
But I will say,
Goddamn, I'll reopen it, Tenjune.
I will say that it was greater than my dream. Like, it was... You couldn't, if I said that to you, hey, Dave, this is what's going to happen in 3 months from now. We're going to open up this place, and this is who's going to show up on the opening night, and this is how it's going to work. You'd be like, okay, think big, buddy, and you tell me to move along, right? And then I think one of the most, we've had so many iconic nights from like, but I think the big one was our birthday party the first year, and because the place was called Tenjune and it was representative of Mark and my birthday, we did a party on our birthday, and I want to take a little bit of credit. This was the beginning of throwback rappers performances. This was the beginning of like people paying $5 to $10 grand cash for guys to pop in to do a couple of tracks, especially in like a white kid kind of vibe. Like it wasn't happening at that time. So like we had like Pete Rock, and then we had Fabulous, and then we had someone else, and I don't remember who it was. Oh, DMC. And it was all 3 of them like, all right, this is going to be our birthday party. And at the last minute, Kanye West was coming into town to do the Louis Vuitton store opening, and Kanye West's birthday is on June 7th. So we were, at the time, his manager, Al, I was talking to him. I was like, hey, what would it take to get Kanye to come after? And he's like, well, he needs a place to go, right? It's his birthday. He wants to celebrate. I was like, all right, well, this is what we got going on. It's going to be pretty great. And this is right when Gold Digger came out. So this was like
She took my money.
So at the time, there was no bigger song, and it was probably in his first 30 days. So that night was our first birthday party with all these amazing people and all these fun performances. And at the end, Kanye West gets on the little stage. It's not a stage. It's 3 feet by 3 feet in front of the DJ booth and rocks like 45 minutes
That's crazy.
of his tracks. Definitely not paid. And that was it. So, it was like Owen Wilson. It was...
Wait, there's a rumor. It's not a rumor, but Virgil You had Virgil DJ one
Yes,
time
yes.
before we knew.
Who
Was
Virgil
that
was.
night?
No, it wasn't that night. So we had opened up a spot, and someone was like, "Yo, there's this guy. He works for Kanye West. Kind of looks like Kanye West, and he will DJ for like $5,000." And I was like, "Oh, he's got like a little bit of a following." I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And it was before any of it.
That's
but
crazy.
He was just, but he liked to DJ, and he was like this tall figure, and he had like a great crew with him, and he was quiet and very chill and not demanding at all about anything. But he had come and DJ'd for us early in 2012.
So you had Tenjune, you had a bunch of successes, but you also had some things that looked like they were going to be successes and kind of came and went.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about some of the.
You want we have 2 more hours? We could talk about the failures as well as the successes.
Well, some of the failures.
No,
'Cause
no,
like one of the things everyone thinks about is, oh, these guys are always successes. But we've learned in our 13 interviews that everyone has a couple black guys along the way.
Other way around, we actually have a couple of successes amongst a lot of black guys, and I'm totally comfortable and happy to talk about that, where I think it's important that people. So Tenjune crushes 2007, 2008, W Hoboken Open crushes 2009. We open up our first restaurant, Abe and Arthur's, and our second club, SL, crushes 2011. We open up 15,000 square feet, 1 block away in New York City, called Catch, crushes. So right now, I've got Little West 12th, 13th Street, and 14th Street, 3 blocks, $70 million of revenue coming in.
On fire.
And I'm 31 years old. So pause, put a pin in the success. Now begins the arrogance. The arrogance then begins to, you take a management contract in Miami in a hotel that's probably way below grade of the clientele that you want to have. You take a location that's a C location. When people are starting to go off the beach, you go dead right on the beach. Then you build a 12,000 square foot space in the Bowery, and you do it as a design build because you're just rushing to get it open because you think you just can do no wrong. And then that was a bust. Miami was a bust. And then we decide, the collective, we decide to go to Atlantic City.
Oh, yep.
And, there's this $2.4 billion casino called Revel. And how could a $2.4 billion casino go bankrupt? Well, it can. And it did. And
not just bankrupt. Not just Chapter 11. It went bankrupt. Like turn the lights out.
2 separate times.
So for everyone else, I had reached out to Dave. Dave and Mike put together a group of people, and we bought the food and beverage of that hotel. And it was, for the first 2 years, it was smoking. I mean, we had
so you guys made money for the first 2 years.
A lot. It was on. So like when you start doing the math of that, you would think that your grandkids can be paid for college and everything they'd ever want if you just do this for 15 years, because that's what casinos do. They just go. When
did you notice it was going left?
Oh, when they shut the door and couldn't pay their bills. And
so what happens is a lot of businesses go bankrupt, but they don't go out of business, right? They just restructure the debt.
Yeah.
And so that's what you'd expect when someone spent $2.7 billion on a building. There's no chance you're going to go through $2.7 billion of equity, right? So in our minds, there's no chance that things goes
bankrupt again.
Bankrupt
it had been bankrupt once.
Right. It had
and
already
then
been refinanced,
recapitalized.
so then you would think
And
that.
you guys still had the food and beverage, and that was still going well.
But once they
No,
mothballed
we took it the second time. So in other words,
the
we
second
came
time you
in,
took it, okay.
fresh invested, and
Yeah.
took over the food and beverage.
But you never would have imagined they would mothball the thing, and they literally mothballed that building for 6 years.
Yeah.
And so the failures became the Miami space, the general space, the Atlantic City space, Abe and Arthur's, because we didn't have our eye on the ball because we had been doing the Catch property. We turned into a Mexican concept, which lasts literally 8 months tops. And then we rebranded the nightclub downstairs to something that lasted
Was Vandal yours?
Vandal is what the Bowery had become after us.
Pre-Vandal, they had that.
Okay.
Yeah, we had then sold it to them, and then they put Vandal in there. But
that
point
went
is,
away pretty fast too.
my point is, once you became successful, you thought that you just are always going to be successful. And the reality is that if you don't elevate yourself to operate at a different level, why would you expect more success with the same level of operation? So instead of getting more disciplined, I personally got less disciplined because I thought very highly of myself, and I didn't. And by the way, I always argue with people, what's the difference between arrogance and confidence? And the only difference is success, right? So you're confident. If it works, you're confident. If it doesn't work, it's because you were arrogant. And there was some of that confidence/arrogance in the projects we did that made us successful. So we just didn't see any reason why we wouldn't continue that level of confidence/arrogance into the next projects. And then we got really beaten up. And what would ended up happening, fast forward to 2015, it was just Catch and Lexington Brass, and everything else was gone. So it was from 14 stores to 2.
So talk about the resilience there, because again, you had an awesome start and you were on top of the world at 32, and then you literally took a beat down, like left,
Yeah.
right, like 7 straight
That's why you
punches.
founded Rumble.
No, it was more like a baseball bat. There were no gloves. It was just,
But
again,
how'd you like?
Was there ever like a moment of feeling like, or a bankruptcy moment in that time?
Or a quit moment. Just, let's do something else in life.
Honestly, and I'm not trying to sound cool, like there was no quit. There was, because what's my God? So what am I doing? Going back to work for some dude in a corner office like that? I would no, like it's never an option, right? So to me, this was it. And
Mike has a corner office, right?
What's that?
Mike has a corner office, by the way.
It's big. Yeah. So that really wasn't an option. I think it was, we knew we had something with Catch.
Yeah.
And what happened was, you get humbled, and then you reset. And for me, a reset was just getting back in that office before anybody was there, staying at that office when everybody left. And I started being at the restaurant from the moment the manager walked in at 2 p.m. And I was at every single pre-shift, and I worked the room the way that was my only property. And what happened was that we realized that, like, hey, we used to be a nightclub group that did a little bit of restaurant. And then we're looking around, and there's this restaurant that's on an hour wait on a Tuesday, while our nightlife was not as successful as it was, and partially because we were no longer authentically excited about it. We were running it like an assembly line, just like a widget company, and without soul. And the restaurant side was not that. So as we evolved, and we were now probably 35 years old at this point, 36, our interests had changed. So we pivoted from being a nightclub group that served a little bit of food to being a restaurant group that had a little bit of that nightlife swagger. And that pivot was everything. So that brutalness, that misery, I know everyone says this is a bumper sticker, but literally without it, there would have been no pivot. And I think from that moment, there was a lot of things that changed in my personal life. I had met my wife at that point, and I think if I was in a nightclub 6 or 7 days a week at that point, that wouldn't have been successful. I think there's a lot of things that changed about me as a person. And from that moment on, we pivoted to just focusing on Catch. And that was 2015. And in 2016, we opened up Catch Los Angeles. And that was just as white hot.
Wow, that felt like it was just the other day.
That was 7
My
years ago.
favorite restaurant in LA, by the way.
That was 7. And people were really hating on us. And again, arrogance, confidence. People were saying, you're going to go to the other side of the country. No one eats past 10 o'clock in Los Angeles. You're going to take a rooftop. Nobody's going to be there past 9. You're only going to get one seating. Nobody goes to second and third floor locations in Los Angeles. And to my partner, to Mark's credit, he moved out there, and he made it his mission to really destroy that market. And he worked harder than any person in LA to meet everyone in LA, and he hit it. And with that came our next venture, was Vegas. And Vegas isn't interested in you if you just have New York. Vegas wants both coasts because that's a huge feeder for their casinos. So once we proved ourselves out in New York and Los Angeles, that's when the Las Vegas opportunity at the Aria had come in.
Yep.
And that was the beginning of the Catch.
And how many do we have now?
We have 6. So we have 2 in New York, Catch and Catch Steak, 2 in LA, Catch and Catch Steak in Aspen, and we have Catch in Vegas.
Any plans for any upcoming ones?
Yeah, they have a few on the way.
So the next one is Miami, and Miami's opening in May. I'm saying it out loud. I'm willing it into the world that May will be when it opens. So we're very excited about that.
Where is that?
It's right next to the Continuum. So it's right across the street from Joe's Stone Crab, right next to Carbone and Milos and Poppy Steak. It's the epicenter of dining right now in Miami. That's 18,000 square feet. And that's going to be a monster. And it's a totally evolved take on Catch. The first Catch was built on a shoestring budget. This one is really elevated and super premium. After that, we have Dallas opening in December. And after that, we have Scottsdale. That's opening probably first quarter of 2015.
If you had to sum up now with Catch, like, what's your secret sauce? How would you explain that to our listeners? Like, what's the most important thing that makes Catch? And
Absolutely. I think it's authentically enjoying the product and making a product that you sincerely believe is the best product that you could put out ahead of the financials. And I think if you are authentic, and hopefully your authenticity reaches other people's authenticity, right? Because if you're an extreme vegan and you only like, very small, I mean, it would probably work in a vegan world, but we're pretty wide ranged in what we like. But I think if you stay authentic to who you are, and the Catch brand particularly has even evolved as we've evolved. So like what was authentic to Catch in 2011 when I think we were designing it when we were 29 and 30 is very different than what is authentic to us now.
Yeah.
So I think if you stay authentic, that's important. I also think great partners are important. And I think if you have bad partners, you get in real trouble. And in 2017, we partnered with Tillman Fertitta, and he had bought a piece of our business, and that also set us up for proper structure and financial security so that we were able to not just think how we were going to build the next one, but more of a macro strategy to running the business. So having great partners and having an authentic vision, because I'll say this, when we were doing the P&L for Catch, or the original Catch, I think we put in like a $15 million a year. And that was like a normal estimate if we did a great job. I think in the last few years, Catch was doing over $30 million in revenue. But you can't think that, right? That has to be magic that's created if you do something magical. So that's not something you can just like, okay, here's the blueprint on the business plan. Like that's magic, right? So, and that magic existed because we were authentically just thinking not what was the best for the P&L, but really what was best for the experience of our friends. We wanted to make sure our friends had fun. Like we didn't want to embarrass ourselves when we came in. We wanted to make sure like that was more important than what our margins were.
Yeah.
And that was $30 million per location, right?
That original Catch, which has 8-foot ceilings, second, third, fourth floor, no ground floor presence, just the idea to even say something like doing $30 million a year, you would just
Audacity.
You'd be laughed out of the room.
So how did working at a bar, nightclub, promotions, everything, and even Catch, you said it yourself, it's like a restaurant, but with a nightclub feel to it. That's what makes it so cool. How did Rumble, a boxing thing, get into that? Get into your mind space of, you know what, I'm gonna do this.
Absolutely. So in like 2015 or 2016, I basically stopped drinking, and I basically stopped going to the nightclubs. And
Do you still not drink?
I have like a drink here and there, but like I don't like hang out and have like a bunch of drinks.
Not a complete quitter, right?
No, not a complete. I'm still in the game a little bit. I have to test all the cocktails here and there, still make sure that tequila tastes good. But I had wanted to shift my lifestyle a little bit, and I still said, hey, like I know all these great people. I still love creating experiences. I still want to be in the service of people. What else can I even do other than get people fed and drunk, right? Like what can I do? So fitness, with the Soul Cycles of the world and the Barry Boot Camps of the world was something that I enjoyed. I was an early investor in Flywheel, had done really well in that. So I said, all right, well, here's a model of the same people going to Catch that want to do something else. And at the time I started boxing, and there was this security guard that was teaching me how to box that was working at Tenjune. And I realized you're either paying $200 for a private, or you're going to like a prison yard boxing gym where like you thought you were going to die. There was nothing in between.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not like trying to like fight like that. And I'm also not trying to spend $200 for an hour. And I said, I can't believe there's a white space in New York City of anything, because anything you want in New York City, it could exist. And there wasn't one. There was no swaggy take. on boxing. There was no lifestyle. There was either like the serious boxing or like the super bougie privates. And I thought that was an opportunity to express myself through design and brand and music that didn't involve a restaurant or a club, but the same principles. We want to take care of people.
Yeah. And I remember when you were forming Rumble and we had lunch and he was like, it's like a nightclub, but it's during the day.
Yeah.
And people are still going to be listening to music. They're going to be pumping, but there's just no alcohol and it's during the day. And I was like, brilliant.
And social media was just popping really hard at that point. So you couldn't really get someone to like post at your club buying bottles. Like that had become passé. But every person was it was just the beginning stages of being a fitness influencer.
Yeah.
Well,
So
you should see Mel on his social media every time he lifts.
Mel looks fantastic in his social, which is
guy.
why he can wear all white, because he can look amazing.
He's lost like 30 pounds. He's looking good.
I saw it as an opportunity where people felt proud to show their workout. And it wasn't contrived to get them to post it. Yeah, every handsome guy wanted to take his shirt off. This is when Aloe and all these like Lululemon brands were just popping up. So people were getting like dressed, like for real dressed to go to these workout classes. And so social media really exploded that brand in January. I think it's 7 years ago from now, like right now. I think it opened like today, 7 years ago. And the brand was bigger than the business in that regards because it was just, and there were some really great people behind it, from like a Justin Bieber to, Sylvester Stallone, and people were proud of it because it wasn't like a club or something like that. People were proud to go to it, send their friends to it. And for me, it was an authentic way to invite people without me having to like host them. So your value in a nightclub is to stand at a table with 10 to 15 people and basically pose for 2 hours to show your worth and your brand, and to show that you're better than every other table. And that just was like, that was daunting to me. So I just figured there's got to be a better way. And in this scenario, you could still invite really great people, but you don't have to be with them. They can go whenever they want, and you can still offer the same kind of experience without having to be in the room. So that was a huge value proposition to me at that time, which was important.
Complete pivot. Just because I decided to. Russia.
Yeah.
Any link to Russia still? To go back.
I don't think.
To speak the language.
I can speak the language. My
Is Vladimir Putin your uncle?
I wish. You think I'd be sitting here right now, or on a yacht somewhere? No. There's. I still speak Russian. My wife is Russian. I speak to my parents in Russian. Actually, we don't teach our daughter Russian because that's our one language where we can say stuff that we want to say to her without telling her. So this way she doesn't know what we're talking about. So yeah, I mean, Russian didn't matter until you moved to Manhattan, right? Like, because like in Long Island, nobody was Russian. In New Jersey, nobody was Russian. And then you kind of get to New York City and there's a little bit of a Russian community. But no, unfortunately, there's the Russia that Vladimir Putin and what that is. And then there's the real Russia, which is people where I grew up, where people had nothing. And when I was born, I lived in a room with my mother, my father, my grandmother, my grandfather, and me, and a bathroom at the end of the hall that you share with two families. And that was normal Leningrad/St. Petersburg living. So that's the Russia that most people, when they see like all these like Gucci and Fendi and like all the yachts and stuff, that's a real small percentage of it.
So we talked about Catch, about Rumble. What are you thinking about next? What's on your mind?
Well, definitely want to, with the partnership with Tillman Fertitta and Mark, we want to continue to create. So for a while, we want to create a bunch of concepts. And then when those concepts didn't work, then we want to focus on Catch. And anybody who would ask me, I'd say, just focus on one brand, focus on one brand. And then you focus on one brand, you get very good. And then you say, well, now what else can I do? What else can I do? So whatever advice I probably gave 2 years ago, I would give the opposite now. But when I look at New York City particularly, I used to think that brand was the name of the store or the location. And now I actually think brand is just the underlining perspective. And I think you need to keep reintroducing yourself as a different brand and a different name. So as I start thinking about the landscape moving forward, I think cool people and people in New York and tier one markets, they don't want to be part of chains. Mm-hmm. And I think they're looking for and I think as you can start seeing in clothing, for example, you're starting a lot of these like boutique, small little brands. Like people don't want to wear just the big brands. They want to feel something that's connected to
We're
him.
lining up for Guilty Party's Paradise.
What?
What?
Oh yes, exactly. I was like, oh my goodness, wow, those glasses do work.
X-ray vision. X-ray vision.
But
Yeah, the fans love his glasses.
But I do think as I start to see what New York and LA and just some of the other markets, I think about what used to matter was brand recognition, and I think now what matters is unique individual concepts. And as I start to think about, I still think you could have the same DNA, like great sushi is great sushi, and that deserves to be placed everywhere. But if it starts to feel and look exactly the same, I think we get tired of it. It's like a T-Pain song, right? Like it sounds good, but after 4 or 5 of them, then it's just like, like, if Ja Rule had a wonderful run, but at some point like that.
Unless have you seen, it was T-Pain who did the country music recently, right? Did you see that? Went viral?
No, I didn't see it, but I think I know
so
what you're talking
freaking
about.
good.
He did that other thing in The Office where it was like an instrumental a cappella.
Oh, yeah,
and that
yeah.
was really beautiful.
Yeah.
But I think there's the concept I like to listen to called Maya, most advanced yet approachable.
Yes, I love that.
And I think if you keep running back the exact same game, people are going to get sick of it. So I used to think like, no, it's so hard to get consistency. People want consistency. They do, but they don't want it in their face.
Yeah.
So I think now as we start to look at other concepts, smaller stores, not everything being 300 seats, not everything being a mega hit. Sometimes you can do an independent film, right? So like think about it like TV, right? Movies. It was so important to have like a Batman movie every year, and it was like these superhero movies were so big, and now they're snore, right? So like it goes into cycles, and then they're going to disappear for a little.
Yeah.
Like how many more Marvel?
Your lips to God's ears.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't. My ears don't matter. It's capitalism's ears.
He's so good at spotting trends, though. Really, like what happened with Rumble, what you're seeing right now. I think it's really interesting because Eugene's really good at looking at like where the customers are going. Right? Would you say?
Well, I'm
always
constantly
impressed with that.
unhappy. So I'm too early. I'm constantly like thinking that someone's going to take my lunch. So I'm constantly thinking I'm about to move home with my parents and live on the couch. So no matter what, that's embedded in me. So for some reason or another, I'm always looking at where things are going to change, and I don't get it right a lot, but I'm always challenging and questioning myself on where that is. So I think like as long as you stay a customer, I think that's why I also like it's important to live in New York City. It's important to be in it, because I remember during COVID when I was in Connecticut for like 6 months, like I lost my thing, whatever that is. I lost that thing. I won't do that again. I will make sure that like I'm always in the mix and always talking to young people. Now that I'm not the youngest person in the room, I think it's important to just constantly be looking at what the next generation is doing.
Mike and I were unflappable during COVID. Eugene and Mel lost their mojo. For us, it was just we didn't do COVID. It didn't exist. We just kept going. And Eugene was holed up in Connecticut, and he was just like, "Is New York City going to end?"
That's where you went. I didn't leave my apartment for 4 months.
Yeah.
We took Mel to Las Vegas, his first trip out there, and he showed up with 2 bottles of Lysol. He was spraying people he didn't even know with Lysol. I was like, dude, you can't spray people you don't know. Then he lost his mask. I threw his mask out and stepped on it. He started crying. He literally was crying.
There's like 6 months of photos where I'm wearing the same like 2 or 3 pairs of sweatpants, and I just burned those. I just like deleted that 6 months of my life because you lose your speed, you lose your excitement, and I think that's the key to brand and the key to marketing and the key to like having a point of view is you need to consume the product. I will never be good at making a product for like 9-year-old kids based on data and information because I don't care about what 9-year-old kids. Maybe when my daughter's 9 years old, I'll have a better perspective, and then maybe I can make it. Yeah. But like I don't. Some people just are business people, and it doesn't matter what the business is. But I find that often or not, that's never going to create a special business. If you want to create a special business, you got to love the product, use the product, be crazy about the product, and go beyond like, oh, this is the data. There's a white space. There's this. There's that. There's a margin opportunity here. Like I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
So Bojangles QSR like took a big dive like in 2020, but now it's like coming back, and I mean it came back, and it's just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And one of the reasons my CEO believed that is because he feels like fine dining is on the decline right now just because the economy, people don't want to spend as much. They want a quick $20, $30 meal. Are you feeling that being in fine dining? And is that, if you are feeling it, are you not afraid, but are you worried about, like, you know, opening up more fine dining concepts?
That's a really good question and something I think about way too often. So I think you either have to be an extreme experience, and the people who want an extreme experience will always pay up for that extreme experience, or you have to be an extreme convenience, like a Bojangle, which is like a quality product at a quality price, not coming with frills. You're just coming for that. I think everyone who dies is in the middle. And I don't think there is a middle anymore. I think that's the same with fashion. I think that's the same with music. I think you're either Taylor Swift or you're not, right? Like, you can't just make 3 songs that kind of sound like Taylor Swift and get a half a hit. Like, I think people just want the best, or they want nothing, or they just want, you know, something simple. So I think I am not worried staying in tier 1 markets. So when we think about Miami, it's on fire. When we think about Dallas, it's on fire. When we think about Scottsdale, it's on fire. These are red states. These are places with low minimum wage, no state taxes, and people want to go there. Would I be worried about that in tertiary markets? Absolutely. So good news is I don't like those markets. I don't know those markets, so I won't go to those markets. So I think that's where businesses get into a problem, where they go into stuff just because they think they need to drive EBITDA or they need to drive revenue. And I think the mandate from my partnership, and particularly with Tillman, is do what makes sense. Don't try to think about the money you're going to make tomorrow. Think about the long term. We're going to be here for the long term. So I am not worried about that as long as our product does not get watered down, which is why we do do one project a year. We got a little bit delayed on this one, but Miami was supposed to open last year, then Dallas this year, then Scottsdale the following. So that is about one a year. But so I am not worried about that unless I was trying to scale. And I think there's healthy scale, and then I think there's like blitz scaling. And I think anyone who blitz scales in customer goods is going to feel it, because the customer is going to smell it and they're not going to accept it.
And Eugene in Bojangles.
I am.
Oh shit, I forgot that.
I am in Bojangles.
Bojangles.
Let's go. But I will say this: when you have like Rumble, for example, very successful in New York. All of the founders were from New York. All of us used all of our relationships to be in New York. We go to LA, pretty good. We go to Philadelphia. Philadelphia vomits on us. They don't give a damn about us in New York and LA. Like, only we think we are so important in New York and LA. They want Philadelphia, and we did not give the respect to those local markets to treat them as their own local markets. So I think the big brands need to be very thoughtful when they go into some of those secondary markets on how they position themselves, because nobody cares about New York and Philadelphia. Nobody cares about New York and DC. Nobody cares. We think everyone does, but they don't.
When did you make your first $1 million, and what did that feel like?
I was 29 years old.
I beat Mike. Oh!
And it's not where you start, it's where you end, by the way. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And
Dave made his at 1 year old.
They have fun with this.
They do? They do. I do. It's an uncomfortable silence for me. No, but what do they call the 8th wonder of the world? In finance, when Warren Buffett, he calls it
compounding.
Compounding interest.
So if he made $1 million at 1 year old, compounding, he's doing really, really well.
He's doing really fucking well.
We had sold a piece of the business when I was 29 years old. I thought it would be the most important moment of my life. I looked at it when the email came in, and I had it in the bank, and it was a moment, and it was the most happiest, and then literally most irrelevant moment of my life. Probably an hour later.
I like that.
And it's not because I don't want it to be.
No.
Because it's
exactly
just literally like,
mean.
so what? You're like, this is a quote from Succession, and someone's like, oh, you got $5 million. You're like a tall midget, right? Like it's like it doesn't. So what? Like, you know, like it's the reality is every time I've had an event in my life where I've made money, I expect it to change everything, and it literally changes. Other than like maybe I don't worry about taking an Uber Black versus
The
an
studio
Uber.
to the one bedroom, right.
That was more meaningful. Dead truth. That studio to the one bedroom at that time, and that was from $2,000 to $3,000. That was from $65,000 a year to $100,000 a year. That was more meaningful to me than any success I've had. And once you can take care of your family, honestly, it's all.
You know, it's crazy. My first record deal ever was I got $25,000 as an advance for an artist I was managing, and I've made way more money than that. But that was my most important feeling in music.
So why do you think that is?
Because I felt like I got through the door. I did get through the door after working 10 years to get a record deal. So nothing ever felt as important as that moment. Made a lot more money, but yeah.
No, but there's something to say about that.
One thing I always admired also, like Eugene and I have had a lot of business conversations over the years. And I think you say all the time, everything that's ever come good to you, you've worked your ass off for.
Right.
And anytime he's tried to take a shortcut, he's like, it didn't work out so well.
Yeah. Anytime
Right.
someone's got like a deal, you just introduce this person to this person and you get 5% of this and it's going to be worth a bazillion trillion million dollars. It's never worth $1. Anytime I work my ass off on something, incredibly fearful about it, really think about every single moment, and by the way, that's still 50-50 at best, but at least you're in the game at 50-50. I do not know how to make easy money. I just don't know, nor do I want it, by the way.
I've tried. Every time the lottery's over 100 million, I used to buy 100 tickets. And then I was like, okay, now it's 500 million. So every time it's over 500 million, I buy 100 tickets. And I thought I got close a couple times, and not even close. Nothing. No success in the
Three
lottery.
numbers?
I would never even play it because the probability and then just like probably will like destroy you if you win. But I just nothing. And by the way, what's the point? Is the point the money or is the point the journey?
True.
So the money's kind of just how you keep. Like if me and you are playing tennis and we're just hitting balls, it's all right. But me and you are playing for points and I get to brag a little bit, then the points matter. But I think ultimately, like the game is, again, look, on the come up, when you're trying to provide for your family, when you're trying to support for yourself, every dollar matters. And I'm not even trying to pretend that. But at some point, whether you got one pair of sneakers or 10 pair of sneakers, one house or 10 house, once you're able to provide, at that point, you should be doing something you love, but you should be doing something that adds value to way more people than just yourself. That was the other thing. Anytime I'm in the service of, that's the business that's successful. Anytime I think it's a service of me, I'm dead meat. And
Well, that could be a clip, Mel. Right there.
yes.
That could be our clip.
but for real, like whenever I feel there's a necessity to take care of other people, whenever I feel like there's an urgency to do something, I'm winning. Whenever I feel like it's all good, and by the way, I lie to my teammates all the time. They're like, "Oh, you worried?" I'm like, "Nah, it's all good." I'm so worried. I'm so worried. I'm literally on one side like, "Oh, I love everything and I'm so happy," which is true. And on the exact flip side of that same coin, I'm literally like, "Oh my God, this is the biggest disaster ever," and I don't know who to listen to half the time. So that's the fun conversation between
Superpower.
myself.
If you had a superpower, meaning like Marvel superpower,
Like I'm Thor.
like Mike is Thor.
Like
Dave
who would
could
you
read
want to be?
minds.
Who would you want to be?
I'm invisible. No, just what power would you have?
I don't know. Live as long as possible.
Wow.
Is there
You're the first one. You're the first guy that said that.
If there's just one to
Immortality.
Yeah, I mean, just to stay healthy.
But at what age though?
I just like this. Whatever
Nah,
this, just stay right here.
that works.
I'm good.
And if you was the president for 24 hours, what would you do?
What I would
Like, if you could do one thing,
stop spending billions of dollars on programs that are nonsense. Probably.
I like that answer.
It's just like run it like a real business, and most likely everything would be just
Of course,
the same.
that would hurt the price of Bitcoin, but I like that answer.
what else you got, Mike?
Mike was quiet today.
You know, I'm learning.
Mike,
I'm
am I not
learning.
interesting? You want me to? What do you
I
want
know.
me to do?
I like the brown outfit. I mean,
Thank you.
that he's gotten stylish. I love the journey. I really love the journey. I was there from the beginning.
Yeah.
Almost.
Well, I wasn't a big investor, other than the one thing that didn't work. But
Weren't you invested in Catch too?
No, hold on a second.
I had small investments.
Mike was right next to you from the beginning days of at Level V.
Yeah, I was always a small investor.
He was hanging out.
He was hanging out at Level V.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was there. I got a lot of free drinks.
You had loud jackets. I remember that in 2004. You had loud.
But it's been
jackets.
fun watching this, and I forget what a beatdown these guys took. I do remember it now that he brings it up, and I'm always more impressed with guys that pick themselves up and get off the ground and then rise to success.
Completely off topic, but why the fuck is there a safety pin in your
Because my glasses broke. I'm waiting for the
Wait,
new ones to come in.
Can we zoom in on this, please? How do we? This is crazy.
The safety pin holds the glasses together.
It's quiet luxury. That's why it's so quiet. He's trying to make himself look incredibly
Where's Bitcoin
humble.
at today?
Bitcoin's having a big day.
Oh, okay.
No, but
I can buy new
I will say
glasses.
this: there would be no success without those failures. Because if those nightclubs continue to do well, I don't think that would be the best version of myself. So the failures were the biggest gifts I've ever had, and COVID I thought was going to be the biggest. I literally was trying to think about like, I'm gonna like flip houses in Connecticut. I was literally like trying to like do a bed and breakfast and just stay here because no one's gonna go back to work in the city. And then even the post-COVID was so much better than anything I could have ever imagined. And so like I just try not to worry, but at the same time worry about everything.
Well, I want to say thank you because it's your time, your wisdom. I'm sure people are going to love this.
Yeah, this was amazing.
We always ask people. Dave's got the refrain here, so I'm not going to steal his thunder.
No, steal it.
No, Dave.
So we always ask people for their, he wouldn't be stealing it, for their ounce of gold. So here's an ounce of gold for you.
All right.
All right.
What's an ounce of gold worth?
An ounce.
$2,104.
$2,100. And we ask you to leave our viewers, our loyal listeners, with like your ounce of gold, your piece of wisdom. I mean, you've said a lot of really wise stuff here, but
Yeah.
leave them with something.
I would just say anything that you do that only benefits you is probably not in the best use of your time, and that if you benefit everyone else, you will often benefit the most. And if you use your energy in a way that is beneficial for other people and do not put yourself first, you will always win. And especially if you're in the hospitality business, remember what the term is. You have to be hospitable to others. So be in the service of, and you will always do fine.
I love it.
Beautiful.
That gold's going to be worth
Eugene.
$3,000 in a year. Mark my words.
Thank you.
And
You paid
Mel-
me $2,000, $2,100 to be here. I would have been here all the time. That was amazing.
and let's talk to our, what do we need our subscribers to do?
Like, comment, subscribe, and tell us who you guys want to see next. And tell Mike to buy new glasses.
I'm getting the glasses. I ordered.
All right.
Guys, thanks a lot,
Over
Eugene.
and out.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you,
That was great,
Eugene.
guys.
Peace
Good to
out.
see you.